We need to stick this piece of wood onto this gun stock, and it's a pretty involved process. Let's get started. If you remember from the last video on the Ithaca, we talked about how this little piece of wood had been nailed to the top of this this gun stock, and we need to get this attached more permanently. And in order to do that, I've got to do several things. And one of the things that I have to do early on is I have to remove any contamination from this area in the gun stock. So we're going to do that a couple ways. We're probably going to use this pick and try to pick away any of the thicker residue that we need to get rid of. But mostly what we're going to rely on is acetone, and the acetone is going to help break down both the oils that may have seeped in over the years, plus any of the shellac or finish residue that got in there when the repair was done first. And that process of using the acetone has to be number one, because I have to get rid of all of that residue before I even think about drilling the holes, building the brass dowels, and getting this whole thing glued back together. Any hope of the epoxy sticking to these two pieces of wood and adhering the two together are nearly impossible until we get down to that base wood or get close to that base wood. So getting that done is our first process. Once that's complete, we'll go over to the lathe, turn down some brass rod until we get dowels small enough that we can insert those dowels into the wood, and those dowels will help give additional strength or shear strength to that piece of wood, little piece of wood that we're gluing onto the main stock. Now there is some evidence of hardened glue, I think, right in this top part right here, but I'm not entirely sure, because when I lightly scrape it with a pick, it actually comes away a little bit too easy to be or have been glue. But again, I don't want to get too deep into those fibers because I don't want to break them down. I want them to be able to support the I want that wood to be able to support the glue that we're going to add. Now, acetone is one of those chemicals that actually helps to break down the oils and any residue finish. And you can probably see that this is already beginning to take away and the paper towel helps wick the oils away. We don't want to leave the oils there. So we want them to actually, again, wick away. So we're going to just keep doing this. And we'll do it over and over and over again until hopefully the wood will turn colors. And the color we want to see is actually wood tone. And it's already starting to happen. Now, I've said many times that restorations is a game of patience. And if you're looking for the process that's one and done, if you're looking for some chemical that you can put on something, that's going to actually make this job done in minutes as opposed to hours, restoration's probably not the occupation or hobby that you want to get into. Now, because this is such a long and tedious process, or can be, I am going to cut you guys loose. And once I've gotten this down closer to where the wood is showing through, I'll bring you back. This took about 20 minutes of adding the acetone and then blotting it off. And we kept at it until the wood started to turn wood color, until we started to lose the oils, and then until we were getting fewer and fewer amounts of residue showing up on either the Q-tip or the paper towel. So I'm pretty convinced at this point we're about as clean as we can get it. I'm not getting any residue back out. There were a couple little places where I had to use the pick and get rid of what looked like I said, old shellac or possibly a glue. Again, I don't see any evidence of glue, so I'm not entirely sure how this repair was done. It appears that the nail was the only thing that was holding it in place. It's just an odd way to do it, but I wasn't there when it was done. So anyway, with the main part of the gun stock cleaned with acetone, the next thing we need to do is clean the little part or the chip part or the broken part with acetone as well. But before we do that, we have to get that nail out of here, or that brad that was put in. And I started straightening it out a few minutes ago, but it's a tiny little thing. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just push it out, I hope. I don't know if this will show up on the camera or not. It's so tiny. But let's just work it slowly. Yeah, it's coming out. Don't want to do any additional damage to the piece. The broken part is actually reasonably intact. And I'm thinking it's going to fit pretty well. Here we go. So there's our little brad, our little nail, and there we go. So the same thing has to happen. We have to clean it, get all the junk off with the acetone, and the same explanation remains true. And you can see that it's already getting pretty dirty. A lot of stuff here. Alright, so this is going to take 15 or 20 minutes. You don't need to sit through all this. You've already seen this done. So I'll bring you back when we get this one cleaned up as well. I had mentioned earlier in, I think an earlier video, that I didn't see any evidence of glue. As I started to clean this and clean all the oil off, I started to notice some hard, shiny stuff, and apparently there was glue applied to this, and I can see it right in these areas. I know you're never going to see this in the video, but there are some. There you go. Piece just came off. So the acetone is starting to release the glue, and there we go. Now it's starting to come off. So without getting all that glue off, at some point we're going to end up that being the weak part of the joint. So we need to get as much of that away as we can. Yeah, fortunately the acetone is releasing whatever it was they used. Whatever it is they used. Alright, let's finish this up. All right, we have both sides of the mating surfaces cleaned, and they're pretty much prepped and ready to be glued up. Now the next thing that we need to do is to make the brass dowels and then drill the stock so that we can fit those brass dowels in and then get this part so that it's secure and sure. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one. I wanted to show you all of the stuff that we got off that little piece of wood. You can see the oils and the varnish and the pieces of glue. This is restoration.